In this lesson, we'll finish up the main blade and then start to work our way down to some of the different pieces of the hilt. So for the blade, I think it's pretty well complete as far as the base geometry, but if we take a look at this, for instance in the front view, you can see that it's actually off center, and that's because the plane that we created was at the origin and then we extruded that out. So I'd like to actually center this, so I just want to make sure that the pivot is centered. So go to Axis Center under Structure, go to Center Axis 2, and then I want to actually move this over so that it is centered. And if you want to use snapping, you can do that. So going into Move, going into our Snap settings, enabling snapping, we can go ahead and enable the grid, and then we can snap that just to make sure that it's right in the center there. Okay. One other thing that I want to do, or a couple of things that I want to do, is I want to get rid of these polygons down here at the bottom where it's going to intersect with the guard, the hilt. So I'm going to go ahead and select those polygons and just start to get rid of some of those, and basically just the ones that that guard's going to be intersecting with. So, and then these two down here, and then just taking a look at our art, I think we want to leave that one because it's going to be out in the open there. Okay. Now I also want to add one more edge right along the back that's going to come up to the base of that triangle. So let's go to our knife, and under Options we'll choose Line, and actually choose Loop, and turn that off. And now I'm just going to go ahead and add this right in here. Now looking at this, I want to add it right in the middle. So with this kind of moving around, I'm not pushing any buttons on the mouse, I'm just hovering over this right about the base of this triangle. I'll hit Shift. Let's do that again. Hit Shift. There we go. And then I can change this offset value to 50, and that'll put it right in the middle. And then you can see it's kind of grayed out there. Then if I go in and just click in the viewport, it's going to add that. So I can get an exact placement for that line. All right. Now let's go ahead and add the guard for the hilt. So this kind of piece right up in here. And the nice thing about building our base geometry here and then taking it into ZBrush, we don't have to do a lot of shaping. Now on the blade we matched it up pretty well, but on something like this where we're going to be doing some shaping in ZBrush, we don't necessarily have to match it up exactly. Let's go ahead and use a primitive to start with. So we'll just drop in a cube here, and I'll just kind of pull it down into a rough position, and we can use our right hand view as a guide here, and then we can go ahead and start to change our object properties here. So we'll lengthen that out a bit until it's roughly the size that we want, and we want it to be a bit wider than the blade, so maybe something like that. All right, I want to add a few segments here, and then I'll add a few along this direction so we have the ability to come in and modify that shape a little bit more. All right, so we can't really see it in here, so I'm going to turn on wireframe, and that will allow us to see the actual edges that we have there. So now I want to actually modify the points for this, so we'll go ahead and make this object editable. Now we've lost the ability to change those attributes, but we can go in now, and let me just get the rectangle selection, and I want to make sure that only select visible elements is off, and then we can start to draw this out. So you can see it kind of comes down here, and so we'll just really roughly put this into position here. Okay, pull this down, and you can kind of see the thickness of it there, and then there's sort of a middle line that's a kind of a dividing line there for that, and so we can go ahead, and it doesn't, again, you don't have to be too exact, just get kind of a rough shape in there that we can then shape it a little bit more exactly in ZBrush. So go ahead and bring this down, and kind of the same thing here. Okay. Now it is a little bit too wide, let's say down here. So I'll just go ahead and just kind of shrink that down a bit. Again, not paying too much attention to getting the shape exactly right, because we'll be doing some shaping in ZBrush, but just getting it close. And also looking at the divisions here. So we've got a few of these long, thin polygons, so I'm actually going to divide this a bit more, just so we get a little bit more of a clean look there. Okay, and I'm going to add a couple right in here as well. Okay, again, not being really very stingy with the geometry, just kind of thinking about what the best way this is going to the sculpt. All right. So looking at this, we've kind of rough shape here. If you want to shape it a little bit more and maybe take the points at the bottom and pull those in, because it's going to be kind of flat, a little bit flattened on top and then kind of rounded down the bottom. So if you like to, you can do a little bit more shaping in here just by grabbing these points on the bottom and just kind of pulling those in. But as I said, we're going to be doing a lot of that shaping in ZBrush, so it's not really vital that you do that. All right. So once we have our the guard done, the next thing that we might want to do is build the grip of the hilt. So basically the handle. So we'll go ahead and start to do that in the next lesson.